Hey, how the hell is it going? It is Rich. Welcome back to the studio. Today I'm answering a specific question from you guys. And somebody asked me this on a previous video about how to use reference properly. So I posted a question to you guys on my community tab. What do you guys want to see next? How to overcome artist block or how to use reference and copy better? 71% of you guys said you want to learn how to copy better. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. I'm going to teach you guys the difference between copying for anatomical and posing purposes from like actual reference, photo reference, and copying to learn style. So if you're new here, I upload twice a week, usually Tuesdays and Fridays, and I do manga and comic book style art. And I teach you guys what I know, and I learn a little bit from you guys. And I really enjoy answering questions like this. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment, ask whatever questions you want. I'm excited to answer them. Let's get into it. So there's really only two reasons to use reference. One, you're studying anatomy and posing, and for that you would be using a real picture, like this here of the gymnast. Actual photo reference, because you can never learn too much about anatomy and you are constantly going to be learning more about human anatomy. Because it's an endless study, really. You have master artists that still go to community colleges just to take the basic entry-level courses where there's a model and they can learn. Second reason why you would use reference is the image on the right, a drawing from crayon. One of my favorite artists, his style, his posing is so energetic and interesting. He has certain style choices that I just find mind-blowing. Like, who taught you that? Who taught you that? Like, he's so damn awesome, and I'm trying to absorb some of that. And that's why you would copy reference as well, to try to absorb something that they're doing right. And you can't always verbalize what they're doing right, but you know it when you see it. Hey, it's Rich in the editing room, and I'm just realizing that I talk forever about just how to use reference. So if you guys want to jump past that and get straight to the drawing, go ahead, look down below in the description. There's some timestamps, or along the little time bar down here, you can jump to the chapter that you want. So, what is it? Imitation is flattery or something like that. Totally trying to swipe this guy's style. No, I'm joking. Not directly, not entirely, but there are things about his style that I would like to incorporate into my own, or at least learn what makes his style so great. And what it is proportions. That's exactly what it is. And proportions is a very specific word that you need to know about if you're going to learn to copy effectively. So let's get into this. This is a good place to cut. Alright, so with this gymnast, what you want to look at when you're going to use this as reference, you're looking at the overall anatomy and the overall pose, and proportion, or the relation of size of one object compared to another object. Like, let's say, if you're having trouble using reference and you're looking at reference and you're trying to copy it and it isn't looking like the reference picture, this is your problem. It's proportions. Like the size of this foot in relation to the head. that's the size of the foot in relation to the head. It's roughly the same size as the head. So when you're translating that to another image, don't draw the foot, giant. And if that's something that you're noticing, that's something you need to change. Also, spatial relation. How close is it to the head? If you're drawing this pose and, you have your head and then your foot is there, you did something wrong. One, that's a really short leg. But that's what using reference is all about. It's your eye and noticing relationships between points on the anatomy. So I'm noticing her head, I'm noticing the shoulders are going that way, and the hips are twerked even more. So it's like that shape. And this is why I use the pillow method. Notice how pillow-like that is. Kind of pillow-like. Anyway, so there's your torso. You got your rib cage there, and you can see how that's kind of turning away, but then that's kind of straight at you. So this part is starting to turn, and then this one's kind of more flat and straight at you. It's kind of hard to describe with just the tablet. That's what I'm noticing. And you gotta know your anatomy, at least your proportions for normal figures standing straight, looking at you, because that's kind of foundation for what you're doing next, what we're doing here, and how parts of the body squash and stretch. So there's her upper arm, and it's kind of behind this larger mass of her torso. So it's going back, and that's why it's kind of in shadow. And I always draw forearms much longer, but you have to also, it's slightly bent too. Notice how we're getting more light here than we are kind of up here in this part. So this part's coming out more. And then you got the hand on that thing. It's so thick. Alright, so that's kind of the first part that I'm noticing. I would actually start off usually with a gesture and try to get some basic placements. But I'm going to show you more of that separately. I don't want to be copying this because a lot of you, I'm assuming most of you aren't using a tablet, you're using pen and paper. So I'm going to show you how exactly to, I'm going to put this up on my other monitor and take this away and try drawing it. And, it's going to be a different size photo on my monitor, and it's totally away. So you're going to see exactly how I try to use size relationships and noticing landmarks, like the knees roughly here, just above the eyeballs, but, there's the head, butts over here, there's a foot all the way out here. Just kind of noticing shapes and how far away things are from another. And the first thing that I'm noticing is that you got shoulder here and a shoulder here. They're practically overlapping, but not. And this one's coming up. I really like this torso pose. I'm seeing the spine there. So you would study a photo like this for anatomy reference and posing and gesturing. Like I'm noticing she's obviously really in shape. She's a gymnast, but look at these arms. Alright, so what I then did was I took that photo and I put it up on my monitor, and I'm looking at the photo on my monitor and drawing on my tablet, same as you would with like a life study. You know, subject is out over there somewhere, totally different size from your paper, you're not tracing it, you know? And what I'm looking at is the relationship between the elbow and the head, and the hand and the head. You know, where exactly they are, what's overlapping, what's not, how big the hands are compared to the face, because that's a unit of measurement right there. Your hand is basically the same size as your face. Covers almost your entire face. So that's something to remember. You don't want to draw giant hands or too small a hand. So it's something to remember. I keep saying that. I keep making the head too small, which is weird for me. I usually make them too big. So it's probably just it was a rough morning for me, honestly. So I'm now recording this the day after, and this was good studying for me because I don't usually do just random studies, and this one, because I was doing it for you guys, this is what you guys wanted to see. Normally I'd pull up reference photos, and I'm doing it to help me start my own illustration or my own piece. So, but this was just entirely to study anatomy, so you're kind of looking at it differently, the different eye. I did some shading on that leg just to show that it was behind the other one. It's not important at all for the anatomy study, but, and I'm looking at, you know, how parts of the body curve and the actual contours of the lines and stuff, and the relationship of one thing to another. You know, it's a very definition of proportion, you know, the size relationship of one thing to another. And I'm looking at how accurate I was, and I messed up that gap. That's the biggest thing that I messed up. Now, you're never going to achieve perfection. It's all about progress, not perfection. So I didn't do too bad. Even master artists will go to community art schools or community colleges and take the art classes just to get that life reference and stay fresh. So this is something that people are always practicing. Don't feel bad if you feel like you still aren't getting it. Master artists still go and do this. Don't feel bad if yours is still looking like crap, you know, and you just started, you know. It's constant learning, constant practicing, and it never ends. So there you go. It's your motivational TED Talk today. The practice never ends. So now I'm going on to that second gymnast pose and doing the same thing. It's up, pictures up on my monitor, and I'm drawing on my tablet, totally different sizes and stuff. And once again, you're looking at how big things are in relationship to another, their positioning in relationship to another. This front leg actually tripped me up, and I thought it was going to be the easiest thing. But you kind of have like these preconceived conceptions about how the anatomy works and how a body works, and you can be totally wrong. And doing reference studies like these, anatomy studies, really show you like you don't know as much about the body as you think you do, or how things work. It's kind of crazy. And that's what happens when you study from like manga or comic books like your entire life. You have this idea that humans are 8 heads tall, and they're not, they're like 6. So some, you know, sometimes you're like, these legs are so short, is that right? Yeah, it's right. We just draw them wrong all the time, and it's a stylistic thing. Total style choice. So I'm working on the foot, and I'm not trying to be super accurate with the toes and the most detailed drawing. I'm just trying to block it in and get the right proportions and anatomy for the pose. So now I'm going to move on to studying a crayon piece of Kami, and what I'm looking for is his style and what makes his Kami different from everybody else's Kami, you know. And style is basically what you choose to emphasize and what you choose not to emphasize. The lines you put on the page and the lines you choose not to put on the page. So he doesn't do a whole lot of hatching or or shading. When he does, it's very rare. Not rare, but it's not very common. He doesn't do it to show a lot of volume or anything like that. He starts off with very light hatching kind of lines, and then solidifies it more, going over darker and emphasizing lines. That's what I've noticed from his Instagram, and looking at watching him draw, watching his process, and then going back and looking at the pieces that I really like, I can tell what he did and why he did it. This morning, though, I was really struggling with this pose for some reason. I don't know why. But some days are like that, right? Some days you really struggle and you just can't even do a good sketch. And some days you just nail it and you can't do anything wrong. But this was one of those days, and right there I corrected myself. I drew the hand where I thought it should be, and that was wrong. I looked at the piece and I corrected it and moved it down lower. I really didn't even nail the pose, and I was really struggling with the butt. I was like, what's going on with this curve? I had no idea what I was doing, and at some point I just rage quit. But I learned a lot about his style, and a lot of it just comes down to what parts of the anatomy he emphasizes or changes, and how he changes them. Like arms, he makes them really skinny. You know, his arms aren't longer than anybody else's, just proportion wise they're skinnier, so they look longer. And it's just, that's basically what that is. And he makes the waist a lot skinnier. And I really messed up the head. The head's too small too. I was just kind of all over the place. I did not have enough coffee. So I'm looking at the photo reference in the upper right corner, and I can see what I'm struggling with, and I just can't believe that I was struggling with it in the moment. It was early morning, and I'm just going to make a bunch of excuses for myself right now. It was early morning. I was still on my first cup of coffee probably. I felt a lot of pressure to do the video, and all this, rushing around during the Christmas season, just and all this work that I'm doing really had me thrown off. So, all the excuses in the world. There you go. But I can see now what I was struggling with, and I can't believe I was struggling with that at the time. But sometimes it is like that with art, and you just got to push through it, or quit, and then come back tomorrow. But what I've noticed through drawing and painting for this long is that if I just keep going, even when I'm sucking at it, eventually I'll figure out what I'm doing wrong, and I will get better, or I'll be able to fix it. Sometimes I'll even step away from that particular drawing and go draw something else, or I'll go read a comic or go find my inspiration again. Here I was about to rage quit. I was like, I'm going to start a new thing. I'm going to try drawing it a different way. Maybe it's just the file. I was blaming everything. I was like, I think it's the resolution of this document. But that didn't make sense. I drew everything else in this document. So that's just part of the process and being an artist. So thank you all for being here. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do like this video. And I'll see you guys next time.